Bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong. This is Joe, the bearded historian. He'll tell you an interesting history. Be careful of his soldiers, they can be brats. This is Angel, she's an entity. She'll cause chaos and plant her hands at you. This is Sue, she likes spirits, not the alcohol. She's the reason this channel exists. This is David, he likes fire trucks. He's here occasionally. Bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong. We preserve his story. Welcome to Wednesday. Today's a very special video about a Sue. That's right, not me though. About a Sue. You'll figure it out. In the meantime, we have a dinosaur race. Are you ready? Here we go. Okay. Start. Yeah. Alright, now we got Patty. There's Popcorn. There's Laura. There's Day One. There's Stace. Strong Mind. Dave's Adventures, Blistering, Thorkin, Alice, Peach, Win, there's Hippie, there's Brad, there's Consume, Mike's Garden, let's see, who else do I see? There's Scully, Crazy Train, Blistering, Steph, let's see. Lily and Bear currently in the lead. There's Duo. Gracie. Oh, it looks like Gracie's going to win. Hang on a minute. Alright, this is Miss Gracie. Orphan born and raised in Kenya. Sharing the Lens with You, Village Life, Farming, Traveling, and more. So all of this is Kenyan Life Love. This is about village life. Very interesting if you're interested in other places. Food, a few lies. So check her out. Like, share, comment. Have a good day. Now, don't tell them the story of me. Tell them the story of the other Sue.
The other Sue? Okay. Class, today we're going to talk about history. What a concept.
No. How dare you? That's not how we spend Wednesdays.
Well, let's put it this way. For once, I'm not talking about recent history.
When have we talked about recent history?
Oh, World War II. Or,
That's not recent history. What planet are you on?
The last 100 years. But anyway, one of the things that's kind of fun with our neck of the woods, and you have just a plethora of museums that specialize in fossils, dinosaur bones, stuff like that. And it's kind of fun, the different places that they've been finding dinosaur bones down in our Badlands. They have crews go down, pretty much every year. They have some up in the northern hills now. There's a new museum that just opened up by Belfouche, which sometime we're going to have to get a chance to sneak in there and see what they've got.
I figure we'll look for those half-price
specials.
Weekends.
Yeah. And even up into Harding County and into North Dakota, there's even a museum up in Bowman that has dinosaur bones, and also up in Dickinson. So. And then, of course, Montana doesn't want to be left out of anything. They've got their own dinosaur trail, as they call it. And the big thing is that, a lot of these dinosaurs, like I was joking earlier, 67 million years ago, a lot of this area up here, as they can near tell, they have a lot of inland sea. But they also have a lot of this was kind of a lush green, rainforest type area. Now, our Sioux that we're getting ready to mention was actually discovered on August the 12th, 1990, by American explorer and fossil collector Sue Henderson. That's who it was named after.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Huh.
Now, what happened was, originally, again, 1990, a group of workers from the Black Hills Institute, a nice little place we've been to, it's in Hill City. It's set up in their old auditorium, which is kind of cool. Searched for fossils at the Cheyenne River Indian Reservation in western South Dakota near the City of Faith. Another town that's got a neat little fossil collection as well. By the end of the summer, the group had discovered Edmontonsaurus bones and was ready to leave. However, like anything of luck, they had a flat tire. Well, when the flat tire happened before the group could depart, they went into town to work on the truck. Sue Henderson decided to explore nearby cliffs that the group had not checked. And as she was walking,
others who just wandering away.
Just wandered off.
I do that a lot.
I'm going to go that way now. But as she was walking by the base of this one cliff, she discovered some small pieces of bone. Well, she looked above her and to see where these bones were originating and observed larger bones protruding from the wall of the cliff. She returned to the camp with 2 small pieces of the bones and reported the discovery to the president of the Black Hills Institute, Peter Larson. Well, he determined that the bones were from a T-Rex by their distinctive contour and texture. Later, closer examination of the site showed many visible bones above the ground and some articulated vertebrae. Now, the crew ordered extra plaster, and although some of the crew had to depart, Hendricks and a few other workers began to uncover the bones. The group was excited as it was evident that much of the dinosaur had been preserved. Previously discovered T-Rex skeletons were usually missing over half of their bones. Well, it was later determined that Sue was a record 90% complete by bulk, 73% complete counting the elements. Of the 360 known T-Rex bones, around 250 have been recovered. Well, scientists believe that this specimen was covered by water and mud soon after its death, which prevented other animals from carrying away the bones. Additionally, the rushing water mixed the skeleton together. Well, when this fossil was found, the hip bones were above the skull and the leg bones were intertwined with the ribs. The large size and excellent condition of the bones was also surprising. The skull was 54.9 inches long, and most of the teeth were still intact. After the group completed excavating the bones, each block was covered in burlap and coated in plaster, following a transfer to the offices of the Black Hills Institute, where they began to clean the bones. Now, all happy and joyful, right?
Very happy, very joyful.
Wrong.
What? We can't be wrong.
Now, soon after the fossil was found, a dispute would arise over the legal ownership. Now,
of course.
Yep. In the names of money, we have to have a dispute come up. Now, the Black Hills Institute had obtained permission from the owner of the land, Maurice Williams, to excavate and remove the skeleton, and had actually paid Williams $5,000 for the remains. Well, Williams later claimed that the money had not been for the sale of the fossil, and he had only allowed Larson to remove and clean the fossil for a later sale. Means he's trying to get more money out of them.
To be fair, I can kind of understand. They didn't know how big it was or the extent of it. So to find out it's not just one of the broken ones like they've found before, but an almost complete one.
Yeah, I think it also probably is that when they offered them the $5,000, it was going to be just for some small fossils, not this big Hondo big boy.
Right.
Because like they said, is they were about ready to leave, and if they would have taken off without the flat tire, they never would have found it. They might have had to find it a couple more years later. But as it was, Williams was a member of the Lakota Sioux tribe, and the tribe claimed the bones belonged to them. However, the property was where the fossil had been found, was held in trust by the United States Department of the Interior. Well, 1992 came along. The FBI and the South Dakota National Guard raided the site where the Black Hills Institute had been cleaning the bones and seized the fossil, charging Larson on 158 points. Ouch. the government transferred the remains to the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology, where we live, where the skeleton was stored until the penal and civil legal disputes were settled. The United States Senate voted not to confirm the appointment of Kevin Schieffer for the United States Attorney for the District of South Dakota after his controversial handling of the penal case. Well, in 1996, Larson was sentenced to a 2-year prison sentence involving customs violations unrelated to the T-Rex. After a lengthy civil case, the court decreed that Maurice Williams retain ownership. Williams then decided to sell the remains and contracted the Sotheby's to auction the specimen. Now, this is where it gets to be crazy, because T-Rexes, you think about it, they are worth a bunch of money, especially intact ones. You know, you can get a couple bones, yeah, here and there, no problem. It's when you get something in the big scale that you start talking about some serious money changing hands. Well, many at that time worried the fossil would not end up in a private collection, or would end up in a private collection, where people would not be able to observe it. Well, when the auction came up, the Field Museum in Chicago was also concerned about this possibility and decided to attempt to purchase it. Well, the organization realized they might have difficulty securing funding and requested that companies and private citizens provide financial support. The California State University System, Walt Disney Parks and Resorts, McDonald's, Ronald McDonald's House Charities, and individual donors agreed to assist in purchasing Sue from the Field Museum. Well, on October 4th, 1997, the auction began at $500,000. 10 minutes later, the Field Museum had purchased the remains with the highest bid of $7.6 million, which eclipsed bids made on behalf of the Smithsonian and the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. The final cost, all said and told, $8.362 billion. Sue remains one of the most expensive dinosaur fossils ever sold, only surpassed in 2020 with the sale of Stan the T-Rex for $31.8 million, and then the Apex in 2024, the Stegosaurus, which sold for $44.6 million.
I know. Here's a crazy idea. Very crazy idea.
Go for it.
Totally new age.
Uh-huh.
Why can't we share it?
That would be theoretical.
I'm just saying, people can't afford to travel to Chicago.
Right.
What is a damn dinosaur travel? And let's say that Denver wanted it for a week. They split the cost of shipping it, because obviously something that fragile and that old, you have to do a real finite
shipping containing and stuff.
Containing of it. Yeah. The thing is that people make these things so complicated.
Yeah.
And they say it's worth this many millions of dollars. It's only worth this $1 million because people are willing to spend it so that they can say that they have a complete T-Rex.
Right.
Instead that we need to make it worthless and act like it's just a piece of history, which is all it is.
The thing I think's crazy is that every year, it's like, 2020 to 2024, prices kept going up. Of course, the Stegosaurus isn't even a T-Rex. Figure that one out.
Right.
The Field Museum would hire a specialized moving company with the experience in transporting delicate items to move the bones to Chicago. The truck arrived at the museum in October of 1997. 2 new research laboratories were funded by McDonald's, were created and staffed by Field Museum preparers whose job was to slowly and carefully remove all the rock or matrix from the bones. One preparation lab was in the Field Museum itself, while the other was at the newly opened Animal Kingdom in Disney World in Orlando, Florida. Millions of visitors would observe the preparation of Sue's bones through glass windows in both labs. Footage of the work was also put on the museum's website. Now, several of the fossil bones have never been discovered, so preparers produced models of the missing bones from plastic to complete the exhibit. Well, here we go. Let's build a whole kit out of plastic or 3D material.
3D wasn't a thing back then.
But it is now.
But it is now.
Yeah. Now, So they were able to start assembling. Model bones were colored with a purplish hue so visitors could observe what bones were real and which ones were plastic. The perpetrators also poured molds of each bone. All the molds were sent to a company outside Toronto to be cast in hollow plastic. The Field Museum kept one set of articulated casts in its research collection. The other sets were incorporated into mounted cast skeletons. One set of the casts was sent to Disney's Animal Kingdom in Florida to be presented for public display. 2 other mounted casts were placed into a traveling tour that's sponsored by McDonald's Corporation. So they did start the idea of, let's take it on a tour.
Yeah, but they're taking the false ones, and everybody knows it's the false ones. That's great. It's not the same thing. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
No. I do think it would be interesting to see if they'd have a way to actually transport something of that size.
Well, obviously they moved it from wherever it was found.
Well, in the pieces, not the fully assembled one.
Move it in pieces and then reassemble the damn thing. I don't know. I think sometimes that people make too much of these things. Mm-hmm. And now everybody's like, oh, it's mine. We have to fight over who it belongs to. Instead of just, oh, we have a new treasure that everybody can share. You know what I mean?
Right. Of course, I think Dresden should just keep it.
Yes, that would be fun.
Because it is in his book. Now, once the preparations finished removing the matrix from each bone, they sent it to the museum's photographer who made high-quality photographs. From there, the museum's paleontologists began the study of the skeleton in addition to photographing and studying each bone. The research staff also arranged for CT scanning of select bones. The skull was too large to fit into a medical CT scanner. Well, no, duh.
Really?
Hello.
What makes you think that?
The fact that a T-Rex's skull is bigger than a human? Hello.
Well, I wonder how many scientists they needed to come up to that conclusion.
Okay. Boeing came to the rescue at the Rocketdyne Laboratory in California, agreed to let the museum use their scanner, which is normally used to inspect space shuttle parts. Now,
how does that even work? It's used to look at metal, and we want to look at bone. Those are not the same thing.
I wonder what parts of the shuttle that they were trying to scan with for CT scanning.
I am very confused.
I am very confused. Now, close examination of the bones revealed that Sue was actually 27 to 33 years old at the time of death, with 33 years old being the best supported estimate in the range, making it the oldest known T-Rex specimen currently published. This was originally estimated at 28 years old, with the later analysis updating the age estimate. During its life, Sue suffered from several injuries, including a damaged right shoulder blade, a torn tendon in the right arm, most likely due to a struggle with prey, and 3 broken ribs. This damage subsequently healed, though one rib healed into 2 separate pieces, indicating Sue survived the incident. Sue also suffered numerous other health afflictions. The fossil's right fibula was twice the diameter of the left one, likely caused by the result of an infection. Originally, the deformity was believed to be from a healed fracture before the later CT scans showed none. Both the misshapen left fibula and the fused C26 and C27 caudal vertebra showed signs consistent with bone infection, osteomyelitis. Several of Sue's tail vertebrae also fused in a pattern typical of arthritis due to injury. And the animal also is believed to have suffered from gout. Yay! My disease.
Ooh.
And several holes in the front of Sue's skull were originally thought to either be from infection or bite marks by another tyrannosaur. A 2009 study found that these holes to be areas of parasitic infection, possibly from an infestation of ancestral form of Trichomonas galeante, a protozoan parasite that infests birds and ultimately leads to death by starvation due to the internal swelling of the neck. Damage to the back of the skull was interpreted early on as a fatal bite wound, but subsequent study by the Field Museum found no bite marks. The distortion and breakage seen in some of the bones at the back of the skull are likely caused by post-mortem trampling. Now, Sue's cause of death is ultimately unknown. The dinosaur died in a seasonal stream bed which washed away some small bones as it rapidly covered with remains with sediment, ultimately leading to fossilization. Now, for perspective, Sue is approximately 40.4 feet long along the center. It stands at 3.96 meters, or 13 feet tall at the hips. Sue is probably one of the largest Tyrannosaurus specimens, only possibly exceeded by Scotty. Sue possesses the longest known gastralium, belly rib, among theropods, measuring about 3 feet long. Sue has the longest known pubis, currently measured along the Cretaceous theropods, measuring roughly 4.46 feet. As for weight, Sue is estimated to have weighed between 9 and 15 short tons when living as of 2018. In 2011, other weight estimates were between 10 to 20 short tons, although the authors stated that their upper and lower estimates were based on models with wide possible errors. I love it when they wing it. Let's just guess. Hey, that looks like 15 tons.
What's the difference between a short ton and
a metric ton?
Long ton. A ton. Long ton.
Long ton. Yeah. Yeah, it just gives measurements on metric tons, 9.5 to 18.5, or in short tons, 10.5 to 20.4 short tons. And it says that the models with wide possible errors, they consider them extremes to be too skinny, too fat, or too disproportionate. Further estimates portrayed a leaner build, placing the specimen at 9.3 short tons, while older estimates have placed the specimens at 6.3 to 7.1 short tons in weight. Displayed separately from the whole body, the skull weighs about 600 pounds.
Ooh.
That's a lot of head.
That is a lot of head.
Now, following preparation, photography, and study, the bones were sent to New Jersey. They seemed like going all over the country, where work began on making the mount. Sue's mount consisted of a bent steel frame which supports each bone safely, displaying the skeleton fully articulated as it was in life. The dinosaur's real skull was not incorporated into the mounted display, as subsequent study would be difficult with the head 13 feet off the ground. Initially, parts of the skull had been crushed and broken, and thus appeared distorted. The museum made a cast of the skull, and altered this cast to remove the distortions and approximating what the original undistorted skull might have looked like. The cast skull was also lighter, allowing it to be displayed on the mount without the use of the steel upright under the head. The original skull is exhibited at a separate case and can be opened to allow researchers to access for study. Now, originally, the Field Museum had plans to incorporate Sue into their pre-existing dinosaur exhibit on the second floor, but had little left in their budget to do so after purchasing it. Instead, the T-Rex was put on display at the building's main hall, directly in front of the museum's north entrance, where it would remain for the next 18 years. Now, Sue was unveiled on May 17, 2000, attracting over 10,000 visitors that day. John Gersh, a paleoartist, painted a mural of Tyrannosaurus for the exhibit. Now, in early 2018, Sue was dismantled and moved to her own gallery in the museum's upper level, connected to the Evolving Planet exhibit and the Elizabeth Morse Genius Hall of Dinosaurs. The new exhibit would open on December 21st, 2018. The 5,100 square foot exhibit included animated videos of Sue that are projected in 6K onto 9-foot tall panes behind the skeleton. Atlantic Productions worked with the Field Museum to create multiple animated sequences, including Sue scavenging an Ankylosaurus carcass, battling a Triceratops, and hunting an Edmontosaurus. According to the Field Museum's associate curator of dinosaurs, Peter Mukvaki, the new suite was designed to accentuate the size and stature of Sue, and although smaller, the exhibit allows for more intimate display of the T-Rex, along with the skull of a Triceratops and other Cretaceous period artifacts, such as shark teeth and Pachysaurid bones. Sue reassembled displays intended to reflect the newest scientific theories, including proper verrucula and attachment of the gastrala to the rest of the skeleton. Now, Sue's real skull is kept in a separate display case in the exhibition, allowing it to be removed for study as required. Now, in 2022, a study by Gregory S. Paul and colleagues argued that Tyrannosaurus rex, as traditionally understood, actually represents three species. The type Tyrannosaurus rex and two new species, T. impertare, or tyrant lizard emperor, and T. regina, tyrant lizard queen. The holotype of the former is the Sioux specimen, and the holotype of the latter is the Lycael rex. Paul interpreted Sioux to represent an early population of Tyrannosaurus, which speciated into the T. rex and T. regina. However, several leading paleontologists, including Stephen Brissett, Thomas Carr, Thomas Holtz, David Hone, Jabo O'Connor, and Lindsay Zano, criticized the study or expressed skepticism of its conclusions when approached by various media outlets for comments. Their criticism was subsequently published in a technical paper. Holtz remarked that even if Tyrannosaurus impertare represented a distinct species for Tyrannosaurus rex, it may represent the same species as Nanotyrannus lanisatus and would need to be called Tyrannosaurus lanisatus. O'Connor, a curator at the Field Museum where the T. impertare holotype Sioux is displayed, regarded the new species as too poorly supported to justify modifying the exhibit signs. But this is our little...
What does that mean?
They're basically trying to say that there was, at one time, 3 different T-Rexes.
So like a big, medium, and small.
That, and depending on the age of a T-Rex as they went through from 67 million years ago to, say, 62 million years ago, it might have evolved.
Yeah, I could see that it would probably change over years depending on the need. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yep.
So,
but again, this is dating back from 1990 when they were playing out in the middle of nowhere in South Dakota. If I remember right, looking at the map, it was close to the. There was a river set north of Faith. There's also up there by south of Lemon, and the famous small town Usta.
Usta.
But there's a lot of wide open areas, and there's also a lot of fossils up by Lemon too. There's a whole bunch of wood artifacts and stuff up there to look at. They've got a fossil museum up there as well in Lemon. But yeah, if you guys are ever in the western South Dakota, you guys ought to see the dead bones we've got around here.
The dead bones?
They're all dead.
As opposed to the live bones.
Well, my bones are still alive.
You're weird.
No. But this has been the Bud Files Bearded Historian, and we will see you guys next week. Have a good one.
He knows nothing. Good night.